Well, welcome to Just Jesus. I'm glad you're joining me today. I'm going to be in Luke chapter 12 if you want to be making your way there. I thought I'd share with you, we lived on the border of Mexico for 8 years and I worked on my Spanish some. And I'm not fluent. I sound like Tarzan, but I can get around a little bit. But I was trying to practice some. I had a young guy named Noe, and he had been baptized into Christ, was a faithful Christian in our congregation. And his grandmother wanted to learn the Bible more. So she came in. I studied with her a few times. Well, I kept trying to practice my English along the way, and she was real patient with me. And but at one point, I was going to tell her she was wanting to be baptized, that she needed to confess with her mouth. So I took a whack at it. In Spanish, it would be you need to confess with your mouth. Would be necesitas confesia con tu boca. But I made the mistake of saying vaca instead of boca, which is a cow. And so Noe started laughing. I said, "What I say? What I say?" He said, "You just told my grandmother to confess with her cow." And I said, "All right, enough Spanish. So I'm not going to do any Spanish with you this morning." Uh, uh, let's read this quickly together in Luke chapter 12, verses 13 to 21.
Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbitrator over you?" Then he said to them, "Beware and be on your guard against every form of greed, for not even when one has an abundance does his life consist of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The land of a rich man was very productive. And he began reasoning to himself, 'What shall I do, since I have no place to store my crops?' Then he said, 'This is what I will do. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have many goods laid up for many years to come. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this night your soul is required of you. And now, who will own what you have prepared?' So is the man who stores up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God."
Jesus talks a lot about riches and the danger of riches, and this is, one of the most prominent ones. Um, and the reason for that is that money, if we're addicted to money, it can become for us a source of security. It can actually become kind of a master where that we're so dependent on it, and we'll do whatever we need to do to have it. It can actually become a god to us, to where money can give you power, control, happiness, and all these different things. And so it can become a real tricky deal for us. And so Jesus just is warning the people: beware and be on your guard against every form of greed. Of course, you don't have to be super wealthy to be greedy. You can be poor and be greedy. But Jesus uses this parable, tells a lot of parables. People are mostly illiterate in that culture at that time. They weren't stupid; they were just illiterate, to where telling stories was easy for people to remember, and they could get the point of them so much easier. And so you notice this guy in the parable that Jesus is talking about. He says in verse 17, he began reasoning to himself, saying, "What shall I do, since I have no place to store my crops? This is what I will do. I will tear down my barn." See how much he's in control in his mind? "I will store up all my grain, and I will say to my soul, Soul, you have many goods laid up for many years to come. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry." And so he's just in, man, I got it. I got the world by the tail, baby. I'm in total control here. It's all about me, and my money is giving me my identity and my power, everything. and I can just lay back now. And of course, God said to him, "You fool! This very night your soul is required of you. Now who will own what you have prepared?" And then Jesus, the punchline is, "So is the man who lays up treasure for himself but is not rich toward God." Now, there were wealthy people that were faithful and pleasing to God, but there were plenty of people then and now that were wealthy and were not pleasing to God because money was what their life was all about. And, before I became a Christian, the first half of my life, I lived in the world, and I'd be happy to share that with you if you ever want to contact me. And part of my problem, besides chemicals and other things, one of my big problems was money. I was addicted to money. I had to have money, man, money was part of my ego, and I had a lot of it. And so people hear this young business guy in his 20s, had this pressure on me to really be performing, so that it was who I was. It was my identity. And it's kind of crazy. It doesn't happen to everybody, but for me, after I became a Christian, I lost all desire to make money. All I wanted to do was help people get to heaven. And year after that, I was in school studying to become a preacher, and have now been sharing Jesus with people for over 40 years. And it's a rich way to live, not financially, but it's a rich way to live spiritually, to be close to God. But so I love sharing the good news of Jesus with people. I don't care what your hang up is. I mean, I work with drug addicts, alcoholics. I work with all kinds of people. Whatever issue you have in life, if you want to visit with somebody about it with no pressure, no charge, no obligation, but you want to study some issues in life, uh, I don't have the answer, but God does, and I would be delighted and honored to share with you. I hope that I hear from you, and I want to thank you today for joining me at Just Jesus. What a great Lord and King that we serve. Have a great day.